the feast of Christ the King, is not a feast of those who are subjugated, but a feast of those who know that they are in the hands of the one who writes straight on crooked lines. Those words are from Pope Benedict XVI. And it's important for us to remember that this is what it means for Jesus to be king. This is a concept that's probably very hard for us as Americans, because if you think of our whole founding of our country was to get away from a king. And here we're celebrating the kingship of the Lord. And there's something that can kind of creep in there of being like, is this something we should celebrate? And yet, the King of Kings, when he conquers our heart, he actually gives more freedom. Whereas maybe a king that is not a good king, such as King George, if you remember him, especially from the Hamilton musical as well, not exactly a good king. Someone who wanted to subjugate, to take away freedom. Jesus is the opposite kind of king. He conquers to free. Because to the extent that the lordship of our heart is ourselves, we're enslaved and we're stuck. But Jesus says, you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. And so the more that we allow in each aspect of our life his lordship to take over, we start to be surprised by freedom. Take for the example the gift of our time. We may have those experiences in which we are so busy with so many different things and we just get worn out. We're just tired. We're running from one thing to another. And yet, have you ever had that experience when you make that time for God? When you take that extra space and allow the Lord to have space of prayer, there's a peace that can come. There is this sort of mysterious way in which all of these doors start opening, and you start realizing that there's a lot of things we're doing that we can just push away because they don't really matter. And it starts making room for the things that really matter in life, and we actually start to become more productive, but in the right sort of way, if we put the Lord first and give him that time. It's the same with our abilities, our talents. The more that we don't keep our talents to ourselves, but we give them away, we actually discover ourselves more and more. And it's the same with the gift of our finances. One of the ways that we can learn to have freedom is actually by that sacrificial giving, that way in which we're not standing on our 2 feet, which again is a very strong, inculcated characteristic of American society is I need to take care of myself. I need to not depend on anyone else. I need to put my boots on and get to work. And so we want to have that sense of security. And yet what the Lord is saying is all of that sense of security is actually a gift from me. And if you really want to experience the freedom from being enslaved to holding on to things, lean into me. And there's this beautiful gift of when we give in that sacrificial giving, like the widow 2 weeks ago, who gave not from her surplus wealth, not from her leftovers, but gave from the heart and really entrusted everything to the Lord. There's a freedom there of saying, I don't have to be bound even to the fear of what's going to happen financially, because I put it all in the Lord's hands. And he surprises us in ways of giving us a freedom to be able to say, it's in God's hands. Everything's been given to me. How do I give back? And that's what we need to think about during this time in which the Lord wants to be Lord of our heart, Lord of our time, Lord of our abilities, Lord of our financial blessings. And the more that he becomes Lord and he's the one that guides us in our decisions, we find freedom that way. Because we realize that we are in the hands of a king who writes straight on crooked lines.